Veerashaiva Samaja of North America ಸಂಸ್ಥೆಯ ವೀರಶೈವ ಲಿಂಗಾಯತ್ ಇಂಟರ್ನ್ಯಾಷನಲ್ ಸೆಂಟರ್ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮಕ್ಕೆ, ವಿಚಾರ ವೇದಿಕೆಯ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮಕ್ಕೆ ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಸ್ವಾಗತ, ಸುಸ್ವಾಗತ. ಇವತ್ತಿನ ದಿನ ನಾವು ಪ್ರೊಫೆಸರ್ ಗಿಲ್ ಬೆನ್-ಹೆರಟ್ ಅವರ ಡಿಸ್ಕೋರ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಕೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ಈಗ ಓಂ ಚಾಂಟಿಂಗ್ ಮತ್ತು ಒಂದು ವಚನವನ್ನು ಹೇಳಿ ಈ ಒಂದು ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮವನ್ನ ಶುರು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇನೆ. ಓಂ ಓಂ ನಮಃ ಶಿವಾಯ. ಓಂ ಶ್ರೀ ಗುರು ಬಸವಲಿಂಗಾಯ ನಮಃ. ಓಂ ನಮಃ ಶಿವಾಯ. ಓಂ ಶ್ರೀ ಗುರು ಬಸವಲಿಂಗಾಯ ನಮಃ. ಓಂ ನಮಃ ಶಿವಾಯ. ಓಂ ಶ್ರೀ ಗುರು ಬಸವಲಿಂಗಾಯ ನಮಃ. ಈಗ ಒಂದು ಬಸವಣ್ಣನವರ ವಚನವನ್ನ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಹತ್ರ ಶೇರ್ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಂಡು ಈ ಒಂದು ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮವನ್ನ ಶುರು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. ಎನಗಿಂತ ಕಿರಿಯರಿಲ್ಲ, ಶಿವಭಕ್ತರಿಗಿಂತ ಹಿರಿಯರಿಲ್ಲ. ಎನಗಿಂತ ಕಿರಿಯರಿಲ್ಲ, ಶಿವಭಕ್ತರಿಗಿಂತ ಹಿರಿಯರಿಲ್ಲ ಅನ್ನೋ ಮಾತನ್ನ ನಮ್ಮ ಬಸವಣ್ಣವರು ಅವರ ವಚನಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಇದರ ಅರ್ಥವನ್ನ ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಅಂಡರ್ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ವೆರಿ ಡೀಪ್ಲಿ. ವಾಟ್ ಎವರ್ ಮೇ ಬಿ ಅವರ್ ಸೋಷಿಯಲ್ ಸ್ಟೇಟಸ್, ಅವರ್ ಎಕನಾಮಿಕಲ್ ಸಿಚುವೇಶನ್, ದ ಬಿಲೀಫ್ ದಟ್ we are smaller than everyone and smaller than everyone around us. That is an excellent way of living and leading the life. With this vachanas from Basavanna, with his blessing, I want to introduce Professor Gil Ben-Herut. He is from our Southern Florida University, and he is very much interested in our Shaiva literature, and he has done a lot of research, and he is currently translating Shivasharanara stories from Harihara. It is written by Veerashaiva Ragalegalu. We all know that one, it is a very famous kavya of Kannada literature, and he is currently in India. To be correctly, hopefully he is in Mysore, I think so, and he is engaging a lot of discussions with our erudite scholars. Recently he had a chat with our Sirigere Swamigalu, who is coming to Detroit Convention to bless all of us, and he will be spending another hour or more with us, sharing his understandings of Veerashaiva Ragalegalu and Shivasharanara stories. Professor Gil, we are all waiting to hear from you.
Thank you very much, Harish, for this warm introduction, and hello to everyone from lovely Mysore. Mysore is just fantastic, unbeatable. I'm here right now on a research that I will speak about soon, but before that, I just want to say thank you, and we can start my presentation. I'm going to share it. Hopefully, can everyone see the slideshow?
Yes, it's very clear. Yeah.
Okay. So today I'm going to talk about a book that is coming out very soon with translations that I did with my maestro. I will talk about it, but I will also talk about more broadly about Harihara and his Shaiva literature in Kannada. I'm here right now in India for a different project, actually, a project which is about the Vachanas. And the title of the project is A History of Speaking, Artifact and Authority in Kannada Devotional Songs. This project research is sponsored by the Fulbright Nehru Academic and Professional Excellence Award, by the Senior Short-Term Research Grant funded by the American Institute of Indian Studies, the AIIS, and the National Endowment for the Humanities, NEH. I'm here with the affiliation of the Kuvempu Institute of Kannada Studies at the University of Mysore, working with Professor Lolakshi and other people in the department. This is my current research. It will take some time to start talking about it, but we can discuss it later. But today I'm going to focus about Hampeya Harihara, Harihara of Hampi. He composed poetry in Kannada in Hampi between the end of the 12th century and the beginning of the 13th century. We don't know, we don't have an exact dating. Usually people estimate 1200. That's how he is estimated. This is Hampi before the establishment of Vijayanagara, of course. It means that it's much smaller scale. It is a Shaiva center around Virupaksha, Shiva Virupaksha temple. Before that, there was a local cult of Pampa, a local goddess. And according to tradition, she married Virupaksha. And this was the place before it was developed into the Vijayanagara Empire about 2 centuries after. My first book came out in 2018 with Oxford University Press. It's called Shiva's Saints, and I'm using the English word saints for Sharanas. So Shivasharanara, The Origins of Devotion in Kannada According to Harihara's Ragalegalu. This is what we call an argumentative book. It's a monograph in which I talk about the stories of Harihara and what we can learn about the tradition, the Shiva Bhakti Veerashaiva tradition in Kannada, according to how Harihara understands it. So that book came out in 2018. And right now, actually, it should be next week, a follow-up book is coming out, which I wrote together with my teacher, R.V.S. Sundaram, retired professor of University of Mysore Kuvempu Institute. He's here in Mysore. And together we translated from the Ragales. So the title of the book is going to be Stories of Shiva's Saints, Selections from Harihara's Ragale. So my 2018 book is a book in which I discuss it. This book is actual translations of the stories. And I hope today, next week in June, hopefully, it's called Stories of Shiva's Saints, Selections from Harihara's Ragales. And we will get into the translations later today. This book is published with Religion in Translation book series by the American Academy of Religions with the series editor John Nemec. And the work on this book was done with the support of the Collaborative International Research Grant by the American Academy of Religion. And in truth, we've been working on it for a long time, now maybe 6-7 years, since I completed my first book in 2018. And I can tell you that the reason I decided to translate Harihara, after I finished the first book, I felt unsatisfied. I felt the stories are beautiful. These stories are beautiful, and everyone should have access to them in English, people who don't read Old Kannada. And then we decided together to work on this project and publish this book. This is the inside cover of the publication, Stories of Shiva Saints. I put it here just so you can see that there is an introduction where I discuss some elements of the text. And then part 2 is the translations. I hope you are able to see the text, Harish.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can just browse very quickly. We can see here the famous Basaveshvara Devara Ragale, the longest Ragale in this collection. The first 100 pages of this book is the English translation, The Divine Lord Basava, Leader, Saint, and Poet. The second book is Akka Mahadevi, revered Mahadevi, who left her husband for Shiva, and the chapters within it. The third story is about Prabhu Devara Ragale, Allama Prabhu, Allama the Master, lover turned ascetic. And then we have Revana Siddha and Kondaguli Keshiraja, another important figure. Jomaya, who is a hunter and a zealot and a Shiva devotee. Kalaya, Bhogana, Gundaya, Nimbave, Chaundarai of Musute, and others here, where you can see. Altogether, there are 18 stories in this collection. The collection of Harihara, in truth, includes 100 ragales. If we translated all of it, it would be huge, a huge project. We chose 18 stories out of the 100, which tell the stories of the Sharanas from the Kannada-speaking region. Because Harihara wrote ragales also about the Tamil Nayanmars, the Shaiva Tamils familiar from the Perya Puranam. He also wrote ragales about Kalidasa and Barna and other Sanskrit poets who were devotees of Shiva. And he wrote other ragales. So these are just selections. But even with this selection of only Kannada saints, Sharanas, we are at almost 500 pages book. So it's a serious book. It took us a long time to write it and translate it. The first thing I want to show you is actually something which is a side project that came out of this translation. It's called Digital Roses. It's a website, digitalroses.net. Are you able to hear me? Is everything okay?
Yes.
Harish or
Yeah.
yes,
Yes, we can
just
hear
checking.
you.
Just checking. Okay. Digitalroses.net is a website. It's a program that I wrote. I was in my past. I was a computer programmer. And with my coding skills, one thing I did was to produce Kannada dictionaries online. I'm sure you're familiar with some online dictionaries like Alar, it's wonderful. But what I did, so in Digital Roses, if you go to dictionaries and you scroll down, you will see here shelf of Kannada English dictionaries. And I'm clicking on it. The books that are available online, the dictionaries available online, are quite limited. They don't have the old Kittel dictionary or the old Sahitya dictionaries, which have Old Kannada also, and so on. So what I did, I scanned all of these dictionaries, and I'm going to give you example. You can also type in Kannada script. You can type in English, search for a word like yoga. It will give you the page from these old dictionaries. Traditional old edition of Kittel 1. There is a new edition, and here, so it's another version, another dictionary. There is a different definition of yoga. You can also see Alar yoga. It will be here. So multiple dictionaries available online, free for everyone, and I invite you all to look it up. This is some side contribution of the project, which I just did it because I had to do the translations and we needed all these dictionaries.
Professor, just to confirm,
Yes.
Are you on the slide digital roses? Because
Yes.
if maybe we okay, if you are moving because for a long time it was there. As long as you're on the same slide, you are fine. Okay.
Okay. Yes, yes. Thank you for checking. And I came back to digitalroses.net to this slide. Oh, I'm sorry, because of the sharing is limited to just the
Yeah.
I jumped out into a browser, so you weren't able, but please go into this digitalroses.net and you will be able to see dictionaries online for Kannada.
Okay.
But I will continue with my presentation right now.
Yeah.
When we talk about Kannada Sahitya, usually it's divided into periods. R.S. Mughali, he wrote a very famous book, Kannada Sahitya Charitre, which is the history of Kannada literature, and he divided into periods. You can see here in color, before Pampa, the period of Pampa, the period of Basava, and then the Kumaravyasa period with, of course, the Bharata, Kathamanjari, and other works at a later period. But the period that we are talking about is here in the Basava Yuga, starting with the Vachanakaras of the 12th century. And it's really a beginning of a new era in Kannada literature. And the poet that picked up the Vachanas and started to do experiments in written literature is Harihara. Harihara was the first to take up the idea of the Vachanas to break the shackles of traditional courtly literature, which was very complicated, Pampa Yuga, with what we call Champu Kavya, very long, epic poems with multiple meters and a lot of dense ornamentation, a lot of Sanskrit. It's called Marga, the style of Sanskrit. And Harihara was inspired by the Vachanas to break out of that style. This we don't need to go into detail of this table with these statistics, but basically what it tries to show you is that Champu, which is the traditional epic style, which was 52% in the first period of the works in Kannada, became less and less in time. And instead of it, Shadpadi took over. It started with Harihara's nephew, Raghavanka. He composed Shadpadi, very famous, Harishchandra Kavya, and also Siddharama Charitre, Somanatha Charitre, and others. And so we start with Harihara to see a shift in the style of Kannada literature. If we take a close look at the 12th century, it started before Harihara with Kondaguli Keshiraja. Harihara wrote a ragale about Keshiraja. He was a Sharana, but he was also a poet. And he wrote works to Shiva in Kanda Padya, Kanda meter. And some of these works are very interesting in terms of Shiva Bhakti. And then Harihara came and he wrote different works. I will talk about the works that he wrote in a second. Contemporary of Harihara was Keriya Padmarasa, who was, according to inscriptional evidence, he was an official at the court of the Hoysala. Harihara, according to tradition, was also an official at the court of the Hoysalas, which is interesting because it means that these poets, Harihara and Padmarasa, were educated, and I will talk about their literary style. After that, the nephew of Harihara was Raghavanka, who started to compose in Shadpadi. And Shadpadi, as some of you probably know, took over the production of Kannada literature from the 13th century onward. Most works, epic works, were composed in Shadpadi. So it really started a new era all the way to Kumaravyasa in the Karnata Bharata. It's also written in Shadpadi. So these poets really influenced the whole history of Kannada literature, inspired by the Vachanas. People who are famous in the 20th century in Kannada literature talked about Harihara and his influence. Kuvempu said the same great revolution done by Basavana in the religious realm was done by Harihara in the literary realm. Kuvempu was directly influenced by the Ragales in his Ramayana Darshana. Ramayana Darshana is in blank verse, which is very similar to the Ragales. It's kind of couplets. And then we have Shamaraya talking the single most important poet among the Shaiva poets and the first revolutionary poet, and completely changed the mode of poetic expression. I'm quoting these different people, and we can refer to TVV Venkatachara Shastri, the famous, is still with us. Thank God he's over 90. He's an amazing, amazing scholar living right here in Saraswatipuram. And he wrote that it was a great event in the history of Kannada literature that Harihara paid notice to the distinct ability of the metrical features of Ragale to beautify narrative poetry. And I will talk about Ragales and how Ragales tell us a narrative, how Harihara is doing it. D.L. Narasimhachar, very famous literary scholar, pointed unparalleled influence on the later poets. So this is all the accolade that Harihara has accumulated. Before getting to the Ragales, I'm going to talk about a few other works of his. He wrote two Shatakas, Raksha Shataka and Pampa Shataka. A Shataka, as you know, is a 100-verse poem, and it has a refrain that is each verse ends with the same refrain. Pampa Puradarasa Virupaksha Rakshipudu Yenam, protect me. So this is from the Pampa Shatakam, which I am currently translating. I thought it would be nice with Sundaram. I thought it would be nice to read to you just a few verses from here because it really gives a sense of the uniqueness of Harihara. So I'm reading now one verse from 100 verse. I'm sorry, Raksha Shataka. I said before Pampa Shataka. This is Raksha Shataka, a plea for protection. What is there to say? Yenu Yemben. You can see the Kannada on the left here. In infancy, I was clueless, wetted by filth, urine, and phlegm, without an inkling of what or who I was, as if deaf or blind. And more, I was rushing after every kind of gratification. Alas, ayo, I am unable to take it anymore, simply unable. O ocean of bliss, protect me, O three-eyed Shiva Virupaksha, king of the city of Pampa. So every verse ends with this appeal, protect me, O three-eyed Shiva Virupaksha, king of the city of Pampa. And you can see here this very personal tone, this very bitter perspective on life, on worldly life, and this yearning to unite with Shiva, which is repeated in every one of these verses. This is verse 51. Looking like a donkey and acting like a searchlight for sin, associating with wicked people and always on the verge of going berserk, a subverter of stability and a bad friend, a bee that hovers around the flowers of lust with an ill-intentioned heart, a consummate cheater who has a passion for pride and enjoys hanging around with rascals. O merciful God, lend me your hand and protect me, O three-eyed Shiva Virupaksha, king of the city of Pampa. Now, some people have read this work as autobiographical, but I don't think so. I think the topics, on the one hand, it's very personal, it's very lyrical, but it's also universal. I think it's talking about all of us, the human weaknesses, the experience of being human in this world with all the burden of living this life, and again, the plea to Shiva to protect. I wanted to show you how we are now playing with the visual design of this translation when we will publish it, because we wanted to make it bilingual. We wanted to have the Kannada also in it, but you can see, I didn't want just to put the Kannada verse below. Instead, we spread it at the frame of the page, because I always thought the Kannada script is like little flowers, and even people who don't know Kannada will be able to see it as a kind of just a visual design of beauty, but this is actually the same verse translated at the center of the page. So this was just a quick discussion about a project of translation. Another project of translation we just picked up is Girija Kalyana Prabandham, Mahaprabandham. It's an epic poem by Harihara, one of the major works in Kannada literary history, because it is Champu Kavya, which means that Harihara was able to compose in the elite courtly style that was done before him. And that's how we know he was educated. This is the story of Kumara Sambhava, really the marriage between Shiva and Parvati in order to bring forth Skanda. And during the process, of course, the killing of Kamadeva, Manmatha, and we all know the story, but Girija Kalyana is a beautiful, beautiful epic poetry we are now translating. It's interesting, it's an interesting work by Harihara. If we think about the Shaiva poets as rebels against traditional style, Harihara wrote this in the traditional style. And a few decades later, Sukti Sudarnava, which was a very high Kannada literature work composed at the court. It was an anthology. It's the first anthology of Kannada high poetry. He already quoted from the Girija Kalyanam specific verses into his anthology. And this is interesting because it shows us that Harihara, next to the fact that he was a Shiva Bhakta, and he was only writing, famously, only writing about Shiva Bhakti and the Sharanas, he was also able to get recognition and appreciation from the courtly poets. Most of them were Jains, and they were invested in Sanskrit and traditional styles, and he was able to do both things. He was able both to revolutionize Kannada poetry with the Ragales, as I'm going to show you right now, but he was also able to compose and master the difficult, scholarly, dense style of Champu Kavya and get recognition. This is the Girija Kalyana. Just a few verses I'm going to read to you before we'll turn to the Ragales. I'm wondering if I can push this a little bit. It's okay. It's not, doesn't really bother. Anyway, so Girija Kalyanam, this is the opening part. And we have the Nandi shlokas, the Mangala shlokas at the beginning of every work. I'm going to read it in English for the translation. Sitting steadfast in a lotus position on the peak of the auspicious and kingly golden mountain, unperturbed by the nonsensical babble of who am I and I am that, blissful and wise, having smashed the egotistic pride of the god of love, with an eye on his forehead, Shiva, the husband of Parvati, who is liberal with his love and who looks on with compassion. May that Lord of the city of Pampa protect us. Okay, so we can see here the complex structure of the verse, a long meter, Sragdare, which is a Sanskrit meter, it's a Vritta meter, and a very dense composition, but still dedicated to Shiva. This verse was quoted in the Sukti Sudarnava. Another verse in the opening is Kanda Padya, which is a shorter, more simple. You can see it below in Kannada. I'll read the translation. These verses in the Kanda meter are the roots of a divine creeper, whose shining mango fruits are unique sentences, frothing with delectable aesthetic pleasure that prettify this great work. And you can see here what it means to write high poetry. It's sophisticated. It's a sophisticated poetic expression, and it uses metaphors in order to say something about literature itself. This verse in Champa Kamale is interesting because it gives a comment about other poets and about rasikas, about poet connoisseurs. Without any basis, they analyze, dissect, and quibble about how works of yore are best and all others are bad. Do not heed those who avow that oil is more delectable than butter. I compose this well-made literary work of polished beauty with an abundance of supreme joy, meaningful, noble feelings, and aesthetic pleasures and suitable meters. So you can see here Harihara, I think, in conversation with the past, with those who say that works of yore, the works of the past, are the best, and we cannot innovate. And even though he's writing here in the traditional style, also in the Girija Kalyanam, he introduces some innovations to meters, to themes, and so on. And he talks about it, about the legitimacy of doing new poetry, which is still worthy of poetic merit. And here now we reach really what is to me his most interesting work. It's a vast collection of stories, the Shivasharanara Ragalegalu, stories of Shiva's saints, Sharanas, composed in the Ragale meter. What you're seeing here is Nutana Puratana Ragalegalu. It's an edition of these Ragales done by Sunkapura in 1973. No, I'm sorry, 1976. It came out in Karnataka, yeah, Vishwavidyalaya in Hampi, and it's a collection of saint stories, like I described before, including the progenitors, the ancestors, the first Veerashaiva Lingayats from the 12th century, including the Vachanakaras. This is how a Ragale poem looks like. We're going to see more closely, but I wanted to give you the sense of this flow of couplets, of short double lines, flowing without an organized, structured stop. And that is unique for the Ragale. Unlike most of the other meters, like I read to you before, which are muktakas, they are bounded by one verse. You get one idea in one verse, and then you move to the next. Even Shadpadi is like that. The Ragales are unique. They are not bounded. You read and you read and you continue to read in one flow. It appears monotonous and endless, and it's gushing. But Harihara had such a special talent that he's able to convey a lot of different sentiments in this repetitive structure. Some classical authors used the Ragale before Harihara, even Pampa, Adi Pampa, in the Vikramarjuna Vijaya. But until Harihara, people used Ragales just for very brief descriptions. Very brief, maybe 10, 20 verse lines. Harihara wrote hundreds and thousands of lines of Ragale for one story. And that is unique. He had also one variation. In the longer Ragale works, he switches to prose. So you have one chapter in the Ragale meter, one chapter in prose, one chapter in Ragale meter, one chapter in prose, alternating between them. That is unique for the super long Ragales. Other Ragales, one chapter long, are just in this meter. All of this actually is to tell you the challenge of translating it. Because when you read in Old Kannada, you are used to this flow and you read the story. But whenever we translate from Indian languages, including Sanskrit, and we are telling a story like the Mahabharata, the Ramayana, it's shloka, anushtup, meters in the Sanskrit. In the English, we are rendering it in prose. because it's very difficult to follow a story if you write it in English in short lines. It will be very cumbersome. People don't write like that. People used to write like that, of course, 100, 200 years ago. So let me read to you just this opening section of one short, interesting Ragale, Nimbi Akana Ragale, the seven first Ragale lines. Harana Kailasa Dantapura Nivasadol, Giri Jesha Simhasana Dolirpa Samayadol. Madura Mukiyem Demba Rudra Kanikeyali, Vidu Kanta Bhumiyan Borasitu Borasutipalli. ಒಳಗಕ್ಕೆ ಬಾರುತ್ತಮ್ಮಿರೆ ಕಲ್ಪಕ್ಕುಜೆ ಎಂಬ ಸತಿ ಮೇಲೆ ಧೂಳ್ಯೇಳೆ ಕೋಪಿಸಿ ನುಡಿದಲ್ ಅಲ್ಪಮತಿ ತೊತ್ತೆ ಸಸಿ ನುಡುಗೆ ಎಂದು ಕಲ್ಪಕ್ಕುಜೆ ನುಡಿಗುತ್ತಿರೆ. I'm not the best reader of this, but you can see the sense of repetition and some rhyming, adiprasa, antyaprasa, at the beginning and the end of every line, and this flow. And now I'm going to read you the translation that we made out of this. In Kailasa, within the inner palace of Hara's heavenly abode, where the husband of Parvati, the daughter of the mountain, sits on his throne, a divine maiden named Maduramukhi was busy sweeping the floor of the Lord of the Moon's dwelling. A woman named Kalpakuje suddenly entered the assembly hall. On seeing the dust flying around, this small-minded woman, Alpamati, was angry and yelled at Maduramukhi, saying, "You, servant, Totte, get out of here." Okay, so this is the beginning of a story. Many of the stories of Harihara begin in Kailasa. All the Sharanas are actually Ganas, as we all know, right? Shiva Ganas, they are attendants of Lord Shiva in Kailasa, where, according to Harihara, some Sharana or Sharane or Gana is doing something wrong, some misdeed. And for that, Shiva is punishing that Gana to become a Sharana on earth, to have a human birth, and to repent that mistake by doing good on earth, and then after that going back and rejoin Shiva in Kailasa. Here we have a woman, what shall we call it? Rudra Kanike, a Shiva attendant, female attendant. Her name is Kalpakuja. And she gets angry at a woman who is sweeping the floor, and she calls her a servant. For this, Shiva and Parvati punish Kalpakuja. There is nothing wrong in being a servant, they tell her. Nothing wrong in sweeping the floor. You go down to earth and you will spend time as a servant on earth. And that will be your correction. And you will come back here, and this is what happened. It's a very interesting story, very sad story also. But you can see, going back to the issue of how to translate these Ragale lines, we opted for prose rendering in order for the story to be clear. However, and here I'm giving you an opposite example. I told you that in the longer Ragale stories, there is prose. And here I'm showing you a section of prose, not Ragale, in the Basaveshvara Devara Ragale work. I think it's chapter 10, where you have a very complicated poetic section. So I told you before, the Ragales are very simple. However, because Harihara was an accomplished poet, sometimes he can, especially in the prose sections, prose in this literary style, prose is called vachana, but it's not vachana in the sense that we know of vachana poetry. It's vachana as prose. And you can see a very dense section here. I mean, I can start to read it in the Kannada Kusama Kuladin, Parimala Moda Ke Yeregotu, Mokarawada Siri Muriolu. But it's a long section. I'll just read to you now the English. Oops, sorry. Okay. Throngs of male bees lined up, humming like bards, circling the young, tender moon. Now, you can maybe already guess what is this description of. This is the crescent in Shiva's hair, circling the young, tender moon that was adjacent to the divine river flowing outside the dark palace of his Shiva's hair, with numerous alluring braids, this jata, right, the braided hair, adorned with fragrant flowers, as the black forelocks around it, like dancing female bees, decorated en masse the slate that was his forehead, which surrounded his fiery eye, Virupaksha, the third eye, now switched off, right? The eye of Shiva is switched off. It doesn't send out fire right now. This is an example where we decided to break the prose into just to make the reading more clear. And there are many places where we do that because Haryana, whether he's writing in prose or he's writing in Ragale meter, he suddenly goes into this burst of descriptions or burst of worshiping Shiva or an emotional burst. We switch in those places from the prose English into short lines of English. And I will now switch to our translation and to show you and to read to you from another work. So if you'll excuse me a second, to the translation. Okay. Now, are you able to see
Yes, Professor Gil. Yeah,
Gundaya? You're able to see Gundaya?
yeah, Gundaya pot maker. Yeah,
Yes?
yes.
Yes. Okay. So this is Ragale, and I want to read it, some bits of it, and then talk about Ariela's understanding of devotion and what it is like to be a Veerashaiva and Lingayat for Harihara. Gundaya, the pot maker who made the Lord dance. So I'll just read the, I'm trying to zoom in. Okay. Does it work? Let's see. Yes. Okay. I shall tell of the northern region, home to the immortal town known as Baluke. A Sharana of Shiva, the moon bearer, lived there, a destroyer of illusion, a man of true grace. By his crafting of pots, he gave delight to the dance of Shiva endowed with an eye in his forehead. His name, Potter Gundaya, was Gundaya Kumbara, was sweet to the ears of Shiva the moon bearer. And now I'm switching to verse lines. Shiva, my lord, how Gundaya adhered to his vows. My lord, he was a devotee on earth. What can I say of his labor? Even as I see it clearly, it is still difficult to describe. And then, of course, he goes on to describe it. Gundaya's central energy center was the foundation of his potter's wheel. His effort was its revolving axis. The 6 energy centers, the chakras, were the potter's wheel. His shining nail, the hub of the instrument. His illusionary body was the clay, and remembrance of Shiva was the thread with which he fettled the clay. His dedication to Shiva was the turning rod. His thrilling hands reflected the source of his life. His devotion was the burning furnace. With concentrated effort, he pounded the clay. He dried the pots with the heat of his inner fire, burning with consuming flame. So really the description here is of Gundaya making pots. But because he is so much infused in his devotion, this labor is rendered in divine terms. One day, Gundaya went to the temple of the one adorned with snakes. There was Shiva, receiving fresh offerings, Shiva, core of existence, amid rows of decorations. Gundaya watched with great wonderment the worship of Shiva, taking in through his eyes the worship of Shiva, the core of existence, as though recording it. The worship ceremonies penetrated his heart as he gazed steadily at them. Transfixed by the sight, he even forgot to blink. Appearing like beauty itself, he returned to his practice of making pots, arranging the surface of the wheelbase, placing new clay on it with his left hand, holding the stone plank for shaping the clay, molding a beautiful new pot, his body shaking gently with his wish to pound the clay. The linga, emblem of Shiva, moved inside him. The greatest devotee's spirit grew, overflowing. That devotee has set in all in motion and took great pleasure in it. The only place this person looked was inside himself. He was filled with satisfaction. Shiva was dancing within him in the splendor of his mind, and he cleared a space for Shiva's dance. He noted all this while pounding the pots until sunrise came. This is a religious observance, he thought. I shall happily continue doing this work, he thought. Gundaya relished Shiva's dance. Gundaya drew nearer to Shiva, the core of existence, and yielded to his path. This inspired Shiva. Mirthfully, he responded, I danced inside my devotee's heart while enjoying the happiness of this gathering here in Kailasa. Without distinguishing between the separate locations, without distinguishing between the worlds of gods and the world of men, I was dancing both here and there. I forgot myself, this graceful divine play. As he so spoke, wonder grew. With love, she said to the moon-bearing god, which devotee set you dancing? Which sharana won your appreciation? Lord, I'm curious. For such a thing is unheard of in the world of humans. Shiva replied, let us go. I will show you this devotee's greatness. Let us delight in the fruit of my dance. The pair, of one mind, descended to the world of mortals. Shiva placed his wife in a safe spot in the sky, and then the Lord of the world, wishing to gladden his devotee, came to Gundaya's house as Gundaya was gleefully pounding. Happy inside, oblivious of outside, never stopping, the hairs on his body standing on end, he pounded. Seeing him and appreciating his intense determination, Shiva the Unborn decided to awaken Gundaya. So he pulled out Gundaya's moving inner linga and joined it to his own inner linga. With the two lingas joined, Gundaya opened his eyes and saw Shiva. Instantly filled with pride and joy, but without stopping his work, Gundaya gave expression to his emotions, swayed by all manner of delight, as was fitting. Finally, Shiva enfolded him in his tender arms as the king of all creatures presented Gundaya and raised the devotee onto an immaculate winged chariot, while fresh garlands of flowers showered from the sky and to the pleasing close-by sounds of drums, the great Lord, husband of the daughter of the mountain, suddenly leapt skyward, moving swiftly and with love toward his abode, the shining Kailasa, the silver mountain, which shone with unmatched luster. There he had the devotee sit on an exquisite seat. The fierce god cared for Gundaya. Is there anyone who can make me the one loved by the whole world dance to beautiful drumming sounds? Is there anyone as great as he on earth? In this manner, Shiva ceaselessly praised Gundaya. And this is the conclusion. May he, the one with the crescent moon in his crest, give devotion to me, son of Gundaya the potmaker. He, destroyer of dreadful death, adorned with a third eye, destroyer of the city, the king of Hampi. Right? So this is the end of Gundaya's story. To share now, and just say a few things about this specific story of Gundaya, because it's interesting, I think. First of all, we can note, and by these comments, I'm going to conclude my presentation, and we can open it for conversations and questions. So Gundaya is a pot maker. Think about it. Harihara, I mean, Champu Kavya, Marga at the courts do not compose stories about people from the margins of society. But Harihara does. He kind of follows the message of the Vachanakaras, dedicating some of his Ragale stories to people who are simple, like a pot maker. And even if he is a simple pot maker, he is bringing Shiva down from Kailasa, down to his backyard where he makes pots, makes him dance with him, and Shiva takes him up to Kailasa and makes him a Gana, makes him an attendant. So for Harihara, there is no limit for whoever you are, from whatever class in society you are coming from. You are a Sharana if you are devoted. Another important feature that we can talk about from this story, which should be familiar, is Kaya Kave Kailasa. Okay, it is only work which is heaven. The sadhana, the path for Gundaya to reach Kailasa and reach Shiva is his work. Not only is a simple man, if he is focused in this simple work of pot making, this simple work will bring Shiva to him, and it will bring him to Shiva. So there is an appreciation of Harihara of the value of work, of Kayaka, which is interesting because we all know today it's a major part of the community, the value of work and education. And you can see it already operating for Harihara. He recognizes it and he celebrates it, and he sends this message in this story of Gundaya. Another part, which is about Harihara, it's how Harihara understands Veerashaivas. Gundaya to the temple is the temple worship, and there it is there where he sees the image of Shiva, and the image of Shiva at the temple makes an impression on his mind. And I didn't read to you, but there is explicitly the image of Shiva. He takes it into his mind, carries it back to his home, concentrating on the image of Shiva, making the pots. And that is a feature for Harihara. For Harihara, temple worship is valid, is possible. Even though Shiva came down to the backyard and met Gundaya in the backyard, image of Shiva takes it into his mind. Still, the temple has a role for Harihara. A temple is a place where Gundaya got inspiration for thinking about Shiva. Harihara has, I told you, 18 stories. Most of these stories, I think 16 stories out of the 18, involve the temple in a positive way. Now, when he tells a story about Allama Prabhu, he talks about Ishtalinga, about Linga Dharane. In fact, he tells the story how Allama Prabhu has met Animisha, this rishi, this sage, Animisha, and Animisha passes the linga to Allama and gives up his life and passes and gets to Lingaikya. He gets to unity with the linga. But Allama carries the Ishtalinga wherever he goes. So Linga Dharane and Ishtalinga Puja is there for Harihara. Also with Akka Mahadevi, she's worshipping the linga as she roams the country. Still, and at the same time, the temple is a valid location for Harihara. And in that sense, he gives, I think, a complex worldview of what is Shiva Bhakti and how Shiva Bhakti can operate. And this is maybe my concluding sentence about Harihara and the Ragales. When you read the Ragales, and maybe some of you have read it already in Canada, maybe some of you will read it also in the translation now in English, you can see many, many different paths of worshiping. What is important for Harihara is just one thing. bhakti, just bhakti. If you are a devotee, it is okay. It doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter your background. If you're a man or a woman. Harihara writes about women devotees, which is something that was rare. All of them are valid, and that is part of the Harihara's version, which is one version different than others. We know there are different traditions in Veerashaivism and understanding and philosophies. But this is Harihara's perception, understanding of the local Shiva Bhakti tradition. Of course, it's a very early age moment in the tradition, and it's one particular tradition in Hampi according to Harihara. That is his understanding, not necessarily everyone else. But that is my work right now, and it's coming out soon, and I'm very happy for it to be coming out. And thank you, everyone, for listening to the talk.
Yeah. Professor Gil, on behalf of VSNA and VIRC, I sincerely thank for you to share your thoughts in such a wonderful way. Believe me, we finally knowing the Kannada, when you read the Kannada, the Kannada matadadaga, Kannadaddu oddaga, I was surprised. Your pronunciation was almost 99%, it was perfect. That's really appreciate ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ see, the thing is, for us, especially coming from your background and learning so much about our Kannada literature and about Harihara and Ragale, that is a kind of eye opener for us. That means, we even born to that particular language and grew up with that language. We're not made sufficient time to know about it. Maybe, through your book, we'll try to read and understand, because now we cannot even understand that such a complicated Kannada. Only maybe
So-
English we will understand what it means.
Few things I want to say about the old Kannada. I hear it all the time from Kannadigas. They say, "Oh, I cannot read old Kannada," but in truth, there are some difficulties, right? It's called the Lopa Sandhi, where words get attached
Right.
to each other.
Yes.
Some old verbs, but from people I'm talking, if they try a little bit, they put some effort and practice. And there are some people who didn't study old, but they can read, or they read with translation and figure. This is beautiful. But about myself, I cannot explain why I'm so much excited and attracted to Kannada. But I first came to Mysore when I was studying Sanskrit, and I came here to read Sanskrit, and I fell in love with Mysore. And then I came across A.K. Ramanujan speaking of Shiva, the translations of the Vachanas, and I was blown away. And I heard Kannada here on the street, and I decided I want to pursue it as my research. And I've been doing it since, and it's been wonderful. So this is my journey. This is all I can say. It's my journey.
No, we are very, very thankful to you, and we really appreciate the spirit you have. That kind of motivates us. That is one of the reasons why I wanted to hear from you, and to make all our the elders to really hear from you, so that we can develop this kind of interest and we can start peeking into all these things. Okay, and before I wanted to ask the question, how this much interest came in your heart, but you told us already why it came to you. I really appreciate that one. And before I want to, Gadyapanna, our VRS director, you can share your observation, Anna. You have to unmute. Anna, we can't hear you. You have to unmute. Okay.
Hi, everybody. It was a so interesting talk, and especially in Kannada language, Professor Jill learned Kannada language and studied this. Even I did not know this much what Harihara Ragales are. I used to hear, but he has studied the script in Kannada. He spoke in Kannada language, and he brought the meaning of that, what Ragale means. Because it is so interesting it was, and I really appreciate Professor Jill for his effort and the time he spent on this. Amazing it is, really. Thank you very much, Professor Jill. It was I learned a lot of things today. What Harihara Ragales are and what it means really. Amazing. Thank you very much.
And I have to say, I was so fortunate. You know, Mysore is filled with wonderful scholars of Kannada, of all kind of traditions. And I was fortunate to meet R.V.S. Sundaram, who did this work with me, such knowledgeable about all and anything. He's enjoying just the literature and the quality. Such a pleasure to work with him.
Thank you. And
Right.
Sajanana, do you want to share your thoughts? Sajanana?
Work with me,
Yeah.
such knowledgeable about all and anything. He's enjoying just the literature and the quality. Such a pleasure to work with. That's me. I can hear myself.
Sajanana, do you want to share your thoughts? Oh, okay.
I'm almost speechless. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Can you
we
hear
can
me?
hear you. Yeah. The reason why I asked Professor Gil, our Sajanana has converted a lot of vachanas to English. So he has done your work. That's the reason.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes, there is in the background. Maybe you're playing
Yeah.
in the background.
So yeah, I'm almost speechless, Dr. Ben-Herut. Yeah. So
The reason why I asked Professor Gil, our Sajanana has converted a lot of. Oh, 1 second. Okay. Now
I think there is a delay. It's coming to
Yeah.
him in a delay.
so yeah.
ನೀವು ಇವಾಗ ಹೇಳಿ.
There is in the background. Maybe you're playing in the background.
So something is I had only heard the recitation of Ragales, and I enjoyed the recitation and the singing mode of it. I had never gone into the details of. I had only heard the recitation of Ragales, and I really enjoyed them in that context. But I had not gone into details of what exactly they say. So I think your work is really admirable, and I wish I could do that. But it is very hard, like you said, for us to go back into old Kannada and understand everything in it. And you have done a remarkable job. You have inspired me to get back to that book and start reading all over again. Thank you.
ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು ಸಜ್ಜನಣ್ಣ. ಭವಾನಿ ಅವರೇ, ನೀವು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಅಭಿಪ್ರಾಯನ ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಂತೀರಾ? ಭವಾನಿ ಅಕ್ಕ, ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಯು ಹಿಯರ್ ಮಿ? ಯಾ.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you can come on video. All of you can come on video. It's a small group. We don't have an issue. Yeah.
The screen is playing up now.
Okay.
Okay, I'll just speak. First of all,
Okay, but yeah, you can try. Now I gave you the permission. You can try to on the video.
Let's see.
Yeah.
Okay. Namaste. I would like to say Dr. Ben-Herut is a Sharana. Oh my. Oh, the wealth of your knowledge, what we are learning about Harihara Ragale and all that. And plus, like I said, the depth of your knowledge is just so enlightening and so overwhelming and so great. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for these kind words.
And Professor Ben-Herut, Bhavani Akka is from Arizona. We have recently started a new chapter in Arizona, and they celebrated Basava Jayanti. Almost 100 people celebrated that one in the new chapter. So she is an addition to our Vichara Vedike from Arizona. Okay.
Very nice.
ಚಿಕ್ಕಾಯ್ತಣ್ಣ, ನೀವೇನಾರು ಹೇಳ್ತೀರಾ? ಚಿಕ್ಕಾಯ್ತಣ್ಣ.
ಹೌದು. Professor Gil Ben-Herut, advance congratulations for your forthcoming translation work, which belongs to Ragales of Harihara. So I have not much worked on that Ragale. My uncle emeritus Professor Dr. Sangamesh Saudattimata has worked a lot on that one.
Yes,
so I
he
worked
did.
on the sources of Veerashaivism. It's my thesis work, which Karnataka University has awarded in the year 2013. So immediately after that, I contacted you over email. We couldn't know. I'm very lucky today to talk with you. In the last year, I was there in USA. Even I came to Florida. We couldn't meet you. Simultaneously, I want to bring few lines while quoting M.S. Sunkapur. His work was published from Karnataka University, not from Kannada University, Hampi. After that,
that's how I remembered it, but from what I had in the slideshow, it read, maybe it was a reprint by the Kannada, because the Kannada University is newer. I know. You're right. In Dharwad. You're talking about
so
the
he's a
university in Dharwad?
contemporaneous for R.C. Hiramet. He was worked a lot on Vachanas and this Ragale also. Even to some extent on Revana Siddha Ragale, he worked a lot. Simultaneously, see, all these Vachanakaras are upgraded, or considered, or respected, or regarded the familial profession of their work. They were all appreciated, that one. So that's called Kayakave Kailasa. After that, one more small query, Professor Ben sir. So you concluded that he belongs to later 12th century or earlier 13th century. Was there any epigraphical or inscriptional evidences for that one supporting the existence or the period or the dynasty of the Harihara?
So it's a great question. There is no contemporary inscription about Harihara. This is why we don't say for sure that he was an the tradition says that he was a Karanika at King Bilala of the Hoysalas.
Ballala, okay.
He was, Balala II. He was the Karanika, an accountant. But we don't have any inscription. But like I showed in the presentation, because Sukti Sudarnava quotes Girija Kalyanam by Harihara, and Sukti Sudarnava, we know from inscriptions, this Marikarjuna was operating at the court of Hoysalas in the middle of the 13th century, think of the Yadavas court. So we know that Harihara was before the middle of the 13th century. In addition, he has Raghavanka as his nephew. And Padmarasa is his contemporary, and Padmarasa is corroborated by inscription. This is how approximately he is dated to the early 13th century. Manu Deva Devan is a new historian. He thinks he was a little bit even earlier, in the late 12th century, and he has the whole explanation.
Sir, one more query from my side. Something while in your presentation you quoted wearing miniature Ishtalinga or Linga Dharane. This was existed prior to Vachanakaras, as per your words. Some of peoples of native our country persons will say that this Ishtalinga Dharane process was brought by Bhakti Bhandari Basavanna. What is your opinion about this?
So there are scholars who work on this. This is very much connected to previous Shaiva traditions and what they say there. Now, to my knowledge, there is no Ishta Linga Dharane before Basaveshvara. He brought it. Him or Alama, this period.
But, sir, as per your words, while quoting Alama Prabhu, he was initiated by his Guru Animisha.
Yes.
So that means prior to Alama Prabhu, the Ishtalinga Dharane was already existing, as per your words in this discussion.
Okay, Animisha. Look, Animisha, this is a sort, I read it as a creation story. It's actually, I read it as the invention of Linga Dharane. This is how I read it. Because Animisha is not a usual person. He's buried inside a temple under sand. And Alama Prabhu discovers that. So I wouldn't say that the receiving of the linga from Animisha, I don't think it's a historical recording of the existence of I think it's the invention of the practice, actually, in that moment. But you can read it as you like. There are different opinions on this. But I wanted to finish and say, there is linga, charana linga. Charana linga, some Shaivas from different places, like in Tamil Nadu, if certain Shaiva goes on travel away from his home, he might take linga with him. That is not linga dharan. That is not Ishtalinga to me. The uniqueness of the Ishtalinga is in the linga dikshe. The linga dikshe and karadige. And it becomes an Ishtalinga dharane for the rest of the Veerashaiva.
In silver gasket.
Yes. So these are the uniqueness of this tradition.
Okay. So,
But this is my understanding. I'm not, so please.
Prior to this Vachana revolution or the Kranti of Vachanakaras, there are some Kalamukha ascetics which used to worship linga and used to wear linga on head and shoulder as far as Shankara Digvijaya is concerned. What will you say about this, sir?
I don't know. This is not exactly the work I'm doing. I know people talk about continuities between the Kalamukas in the Karnataka and the Veerashaiva Matas. But there is actually one scholar who is working on it. Her name is Elaine Fisher from Stanford University. I don't know enough to tell you.
Thank you. Sir, can I call you in the morning?
Sure.
Yeah. So your USA number, can I call for that one?
Yeah, on WhatsApp. Are you now in India or
I
in
will, Anna, I will share.
Yeah, fine.
Gil's
Okay.
number to you.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
On
Call him
WhatsApp.
in Mysore. Yeah.
Yes.
ಇಲ್ಲ ಅವ್ರದ್ದು ಅಮೆರಿಕದ ನಂಬರ್ ಇದೆ ನನ್ನ ಕಡೆ.
ಸರಿ.
He has an Indian number also.
No.
Fine. Then fine.
WhatsApp ದಲ್ಲಿ American number working.
Okay.
No problem.
Yes,
Call
sir.
me.
Done. Okay. Thank you. So anyhow, advance congratulations for your wonderful translation. Almost it's more stronger and more pursuable than Kannada in English work. I like it. I'll appreciate it.
We put a lot of effort.
I know. By wordings, I'll come to know.
That anyone, even if you're not from Karnataka, even if you're not Indian, even just a student of English, reading this English, you should be able to enjoy and understand. That was the effort to make it available.
Yeah, fine.
Thank you, Chakatana. Maheshware, nimdenara observation ಹೇಳ್ತೀರಾ?
Namaste.
I remember one drama did by Vasantaka.
Yes.
Kundaya.
That's correct.
Kundaya, right?
Right.
You
My
can't see
wife
your
did
face. Can you get your face a little bit? Adjust the camera.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah. We are seeing only your forehead. Only intelligence we are seeing.
Are you able to see now?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, my wife did and the children do a play on the Kumbara Gundanna. So Gundaya. So I have many questions come to my mind, but I will try to keep it short and not take up too much of your time. Keep it to maybe a couple of questions. So how many years of work has it been in Mysore or any other places in Mysore? The other thing is, I suppose you can share with us maybe in the chat about how to get your book. And also, would you be able to share a little more about the status of how the translations are? What condition is it right now? Do we, Google Translate, for example, it can pretty much translate a sentence at a time. But are there other tools available which are stronger? And what's the condition? Where are we headed?
Yes,
Thank
yes.
you.
So few answers to your questions. First of all, my first book is available on Amazon, both India and Amazon.com. If you type my name, Shiva's Saints, it will be there. The second book is also coming out with Oxford next month, so it will probably be in Amazon in the next few months.
Oh, perfect.
And I hope it's not up to me. I very much hope they'll do it quickly, print it in India. That makes it more available, more affordable, the price. The Indian print is great. Amazon India. So I hope it will get there in a few months. It will take some time, but it will get there. Now, your question about translation is, of course, it's a huge question. We are living in a very rapid advancement in technology, and we see it in translations also. Now, even if you take now an iPhone and you take a picture of Kannada text, I think it can on the spot translate it to English. Or you can do with Google. You can download the Google app, it will translate. These things develop very quickly and improve. However, I don't think any time in the near future we'll be able to translate with computer poetry, Kannada poetry. Definitely not old Kannada poetry, which is why I'm lucky. I'm lucky in that way because I will still have a job, right? Because otherwise they can fire me and just run it on Google and get the Ragale translated. But it is not like that. Old language, Kannada and Sanskrit, old languages, they are deliberately multi-layered, complicated, playful in their meanings. You need some kind of human touch and understanding. I don't think the machine translation will get there. I don't think it's even lucrative for them to try and work on it. It's too esoteric. But you can try. You can let us know if it's working.
Thank
Any
you.
other question, Anna? Maishana? ಬೇರೆ ಏನಾದ್ರು?
No, I don't. Yeah, I don't have any other. So, in Florida, are you planning to introduce courses, or what's the future?
This is my maybe 12th year already as a professor in University of South Florida in Tampa. And I regularly teach courses on Hinduism, on the Mahabharata, on the Ramayana, and I teach a seminar dedicated to Bhakti.
I see.
And we're doing different Bhakti traditions from different places. One of them is Veerashaivas. And there I teach about my work. And I give them my translation, and of course, Eke Ramanujan and Vachanas, and all of these things. So I teach about specifically, but I also teach about Indian traditions more broadly.
Wonderful. Thanks. Hope
University of South Florida. And there are universities across the country with people who love India, with a passion for India, who teach about Indian literature and religions and culture.
Sounds good.
ಸುಶೀಲಕ್ಕ, ಚಂದ್ರಶೇಖರಣ್ಣ, ನೀವೇನಾರು ಹೇಳ್ತೀರಾ?
ಯಾ ಏನು ವಿಡಿಯೋ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಾಯ್ತು ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಹಾಕ್ರಿ
ವಿಡಿಯೋ ಮಾಡಿ ಅಣ್ಣ. ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ, ನಾನು ನಿಮಗೆ ಫಾರ್ ಯು. ಯಾ, ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಅಣ್ಣ. ನೋಡಿ, ಐ ಆಮ್ ಆಸ್ಕಿಂಗ್ ಯು ಟು ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್. ಯಾ, ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ.
It says unable to access ante. Okay. It says unable to access, but I'll just talk for a couple of words. Let me see why. Yeah. Hello, namaskar.
Namaskara, sir.
Gurtaita nanda yaranta?
ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ.
Michigan in
ಕನ್ನಡ ಮಾತಾಡುವುದು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಕಷ್ಟವಾಗಿದೆ ಯಾಕೆಂದ್ರೆ ಪ್ರಯತ್ನ ಮಾಡುತ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ ಪ್ರಯತ್ನ
Yes, yes. Chandrasekhar Virpannawar from Kalamazoo.
We talked. I know,
Yes.
I remember you very well. I'm very happy you attended my talk today.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was amazing, even though we spoke before and then when you were in Mysore.
I know.
And in fact, I invited you to the convention, but you said you won't be here. So no,
Yes.
it was a wonderful talk. It was really nice listening. And then I have seen your book. I haven't purchased, but Dr. Pillai showed me, when I was in her office. I've seen your book, and it's amazing. So, and I won't ask any question, but it was amazing to hear you so enthusiastic and so involved in the Shraddha Bhakti, like you were into it. It's really, yeah.
So first of all, thank you. I'm very happy you attended my talk. I was looking for an opportunity to connect with you. I was on the move and I come going. So this is wonderful. And about the Shraddha, really, I'm doing work as a scholar, but it is just you said Shraddha, and I think it's true. Sometimes we get, working with the text and the ideas and the stories, we get this Amrita also for us. Even though it's scholarly and it's a different vocation out of intellectual interest and criticism and scholarship, still we get drops of Amrita here and there. So great pleasure.
Yeah.
Great pleasure.
Thank you. We'll meet sometime. Thank you.
Yes, I'd love to.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. ಚಂದ್ರಶೇಖರಣ್ಣ ಸುಶೀಲಕ್ಕ ಇದ್ದಾರಾ ಅಥವಾ
Yes, actually, she has gone somewhere, but so she took grandkids. She is not here. Yeah.
ಶಿವಪ್ಪಣ್ಣ ಪಲ್ಲದಣ್ಣ ನೀವಿದ್ದೀರಾ?
ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ.
ನಿಮ್ದು ಒಂದೆರಡು ಮಾತು ಶೇರ್ ಮಾಡಿ.
ನಮ್ದೇನಿಲ್ಲ. I'm really enjoyed the presentation, learned a lot. I really thank Professor Gil for the presentation. It was wonderful. I really learned a lot of things. I don't have much to say. I'm just learning. Thank you so much for the presentation.
See, one of the goal of our Vichara Vedike, Professor Gil, is basically we have all our life members who are all now moving to 60 plus. And they're all professionals. They were immersed in the materialistic world. Now they have some time. So we are kind of trying to get everybody together so we can pass our, intellectual journey. We can do it together. For example, Chandrasekharanna is another erudite we have. Still, he is supposed to give a presentation to Vichara Vedike. He's still working on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
Nandini, you have anything? Sorry, Helena. Yeah.
Just to say, you have a tradition, and to find the time in going back to the tradition, such a value. I totally understand it. I also come from an ancient tradition. We also have these pleasure. We have the same pleasure. Going back to the tradition gives a lot of solace.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess Dr. Gil, you already told them, or they know that your tradition. Did you talk about your tradition in the beginning?
No.
He came, his journey, because I know it, his journey from Israel to USA and now to India, and across from the two ancient civilizations and ancient religions and other religions, and it's amazing. Anytime I see this, Allama's Vachana, Yattana Mamar, Yattana Kogile, we come from different places, and there is an underlying current and stream. We don't know what it is.
Yettanindeta Sambandaya.
Yes.
So now Gadgapanna will go and learn now 10 vachanas in next couple of weeks. Because now Professor Ben-Herut is telling vachana so clearly. Yeah. Nandini akka, ನೀವೇನಾರ ಹೇಳ್ತೀರಾ? Nandini akka. Okay. Nandini is from Baltimore. She is also our regular attendee, Okay. If anybody has no more questions, I think I will try to kind of wind up this excellent presentation, and I'm sure we all enjoyed it. Okay. One second. Nandini Akka came.
ಹರೀಶ್ ಅವ್ರೆ,
ಹೇಳಿ ಹೇಳಿ
ತುಂಬಾ ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ಸ್ ಇದು for this session. Tumba thanks. Now, unfortunately, I could not listen to all of Gil or the I could not listen to it, but I did listen to all of the question answers, and ತುಂಬಾ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿತ್ತು ಗಿಲ್ ಅವರೇ. ಬಹಳ ವರ್ಷದಿಂದ ಈ ರಗಳೆಗಳು ಓದ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ, ನನಗೂ ಆಗಿಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಅಟ್ ಲೀಸ್ಟ್ ನಿಮ್ ಮೂಲಕ ಇಂದ ಕೇಳೋ ಹಂಗಾಗಿದೆ. And translation ಇರೋದ್ರಿಂದ, so that loss will be extremely helpful. So thank you very much. It was just beautiful.
Thank you.
And one more thing I want to kind of announce, from July onwards, we are trying to have a series of presentation on Siddhanta Shikamani and Vachanas. Learning about our Shatsthalas through Siddhanta Shikamani and Vachanas. It will be very interesting. It may run into 16, sessions actually. It will go for the next 6 to 8 months. So I want you to, I know you're all interested, you can all join together. Kind of understand and study and understand the Siddhanta Shikamani and also related Vachanas for the Shatpatis. Okay, and Nandini Akka has been with us for a long time, several years in Vichara Vedike, and I want you to continue, Nandini Akka. I really appreciate.
Of course, I will.
Thank you. Okay.
Siddhanta Shikamani link kalastira?
Yeah, ಅದನ್ನ ಕಳಿಸ್ತೀನಣ್ಣ. ಅದನ್ನ ನಮ್ಮ ಪ್ರವೀಣ್ ಶಿವಶಂಕರ್, he is one of our, I think Professor Ben-Herut, you need to meet one of our VSNA erudite scholar. His name is Praveen Shivashankar. He's really knowledgeable about all these scripts, the old scripts. He's doing a PhD right now, and he's going to talk about Siddhanta Shikamani and comparative, Shatsthala Vachanas. Both,
where is he?
He is in Canada, Toronto, but he'll be giving the sessions through Vichara Vedike.
Yes.
Okay.
ಹರೀಶ್, ನಾನು ಮಾತಾಡೋದು ಕೇಳಿಸುತ್ತಾ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ?
ಕೇಳಿಸುತ್ತಮ್ಮ, ಕೇಳಿಸುತ್ತೆ ಹೇಳಿ.
ನಾನು ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕಾಗಿದ್ದೇನಂದ್ರೆ, ಐ ಹ್ಯಾಡ್ ದ ಪ್ರಿವಿಲೇಜ್ ಆಫ್ ಮೀಟಿಂಗ್ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ರಾಮಾನುಜಂ ಸರ್ನ way back in Chicago. So I am so glad I got to meet another scholar today.
Thank you. ಅಣ್ಣ ಹಾಲ್ಸ್ವಾಮಿ ಅವ್ರು, ನೀವು ಇವಾಗ ಬಂದು ಜಾಯ್ನ್ ಆಗಿದ್ದೀರಾ? ನೀವೇನಾರ ಹೇಳ್ತೀರಾ ಅಣ್ಣವ್ರೆ? ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ಇಫ್ ದೇರ್ ಇಸ್ ನೋ ಮೋರ್,
ಸರ್ ಕ್ಷಮೆ ಇರ್ಲಿ, ನಾನು ಆಮೇಲೆ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತೀನಿ.
ಆಯ್ತು ಸರ್.
ಹರೀಶ್ ಅವರೇ, ಇವ್ರು ಗಿಲ್ ಅವ್ರು ಇದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ, ಇಲೈನ್ ಫಿಶರ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು. ಸೊ ಮೇ ಬಿ ವಿ ಕುಡ್ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಎ ಸೆಷನ್ ವಿತ್ ಹರ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ. ಕಾಲಮುಖಿ ಅವ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ, ಅವರು ಶೀಸ್ ಸ್ಟಡಿಂಗ್, ಶೀಸ್ ವರ್ಕಿಂಗ್ ಆನ್ ದಟ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಅದನ್ನು ತಿಳ್ಕೊಂಡಂಗೆ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ.
Definitely. Now that we know Professor Ben-Herut, now we'll be inviting them very often. Whenever he is available, we'll definitely.
Yes, please. That will be so wonderful. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, and Professor, you need to attend our convention one time. If not this time, maybe the next one we may have it in Florida or somewhere else. You need to come, but at least you need to.
We were talking about it with Chandrasekhar. It's always, but we will do it. We will find the time.
Yeah, we love to invite you people instead of the politicians or Swamijis. Such scholars can bring more knowledge.
And actually, I have to say, I met last year Shivamurti Swamiji. He is a great scholar.
Yeah,
he is the top scholar in his Sanskrit knowledge, Kannada knowledge. He even programmed computers.
Yeah.
We had a conversation. So it was a lovely meeting with him.
Yeah, we were glad that he is coming to the convention this time.
I know, he told me. Okay, lovely. Okay.
Thank you.
Well, I thank you all for the participation and the warm reception. And thank you, Harish, for organizing this.
Thank you, Professor Ben-Herut. Once again, on behalf of VSNA and VARC, I sincerely thank you all for your time, and all of you to really enjoy this one. Thank you very much. See you again.
Thank you.